Hi, welcome to Influence, a College of Agriculture and Life Sciences production. I'm your host, Dr. Lacey Roberts, and today we have with us Dr. Opie McCubbins. He is in the School of Human Sciences, specifically in the Agricultural Education, Leadership, and Communication Department. Welcome, Dr. McCubbins.
Hey, happy to be here.
Wonderful. It is wonderful to have you. Well, I know that you are new to Mississippi State, so welcome to Mississippi State. It is wonderful to have a new faculty member. If you could, tell us a little bit about your department as well as your role in the department.
Yeah, so again, Opie McCubbins, in the School of Human Sciences. The area that I work in specifically is agricultural education, leadership, and communications. And within that, obviously, that's pretty broad as well. My specific focus is agricultural education. So I work with our students who are planning to become middle to high school agriculture teachers or potentially extension agents all across the region throughout the country. Like Lacey said, I am a new faculty member here. I just joined Mississippi State in August. Spent a couple of years prior to my time here at Mississippi State at Texas A&M and Tennessee Tech University, again in teacher education.
Wonderful. So teacher education. So within that realm, what are some of the classes that you teach in Mississippi State?
Yeah, so at the undergraduate level, I teach our orientation to agricultural education, leadership, and communication, and that's kind of a broad overview of all of those disciplines, kind of our introductory course for all of our students in the department. And then I teach a teaching methods course, which is a requirement for all students in the School of Human Sciences. And that course, again, looking at teaching and learning theory, how to deliver instruction in formal and informal environments. I also teach a pedagogy of agri-science programs, and that's kind of like a program planning class specifically for our teacher education students. And that class really focuses on classroom instruction, how to advise and facilitate youth development through the National FFA organization, as well as work-based learning opportunities through the Supervised Agricultural Experience Program.
Okay.
At the graduate level, I teach a Directing Learning Experience course, and that is a graduate level course focused on, very theory-heavy course focused on how teaching and learning works.
Wonderful. Okay, so it sounds like some of these classes can be hands-on, especially if these are teachers that are going to go into a field of education, right? They get some of that experience here at the university. What are some of the things that students do experience in your classroom?
Yeah, so I'm a true believer in the power of active learning. And obviously the pandemic has hindered some of this, but I'm excited for the fall to bring these activities back into a face-to-face setting. But for instance, in the orientation class, there are a couple opportunities for students to shadow individuals who are in the discipline areas that they plan to work in one day. So for instance, our students who are pursuing an ag leadership portion of the degree, they may find someone who actually works in industry and spend a day shadowing them, interviewing them, learning the ins and outs of that industry, what it is that they do, what's their day-to-day, what are some things that they can do while they're here at Mississippi State to prepare for a career in that field. The teaching methods course, we have a lecture, but the lab, I think, is the true powerhouse of that course. Because every student is required to complete 4 micro-teaching experiences, and that's where they actually go through the whole process of planning instruction, planning to assess student learning, and then they actually deliver that through a micro-teaching to their peers. So again, that's a course that's required for all students. So we've got fashion design and merchandising students in there teaching students about the fashion industry who may not otherwise really know much about that industry. So that's very hands-on, very active. And then in the pedagogy class, we do a lot of work with secondary ag programs. The students actually spend lots of time in secondary programs, assisting the teacher, coming up with recruitment materials, developing curriculum, developing units. And then we also like for them to actually get some experience in teaching those units to secondary students. It's a much different experience teaching your peers in that methods class. And then when you get to the pedagogy class, actually teaching it to high school students. So again, true believer in the power of hands-on active learning, and try to have that throughout all of my courses.
Wow, it sounds like these students have some great avenues for preparation for their actual career field, which, may not happen at some other universities. So that is fantastic. The teaching methods course, that sounds like a great kind of crossover course where you have lots of students exchanging different information and kind of exposing each other to their different realms of where they live within agriculture, which is really fascinating. That is awesome. So it sounds like you're doing a lot within the classroom, but I also know that as a part of your appointment, you do some research. Can you tell us what you do on the research side of your role?
Yeah, so my area of inquiry, broadly defined, is in technology integration. So how teachers leverage technology in their classroom, how they leverage it to transform the classroom. My very specific interest is on the use and impact of immersive technology, things like augmented reality, virtual reality, the use and impact of that for teaching and learning in and about agriculture. So how can we use virtual reality to transform these lessons that were typically taught in the four walls of a traditional classroom? How can we expand that through the use of things like a virtual reality headset that students can pop on, and then hey, instead of being in rural Mississippi, we can transport them somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa. So that's what my research revolves around, and again, tons of different projects that I'm currently working on with the World Food Prize Global Guides, looking at how teachers can address global learning in agriculture, how they can address food security, and do that in their local communities, but through a global lens, again, leveraging the power of immersive technology. Got some exciting projects with faculty in veterinary medicine. This is an existing project that I brought with me, VR and Vet Med. We're looking at how we can recruit rural veterinarians or get students interested in practicing in rural areas, because there's a dearth of rural vets. Students go through vet school and they want to practice in city limits, and we've got places in West Texas that need a vet. So how can we leverage this technology to showcase the potential of practicing in those areas? These are just a couple of the projects we're working on.
That is fantastic. As somebody that comes from a very rural area, I know firsthand we need vets in those regions. So what a cool project. So you're interested in this virtual reality and augmented reality, and you're interested in having a classroom that is very hands-on. Is there any chance for you to combine those two passions of yours here at Mississippi State?
Yes, so that is, I'm as a faculty member, I'm a huge believer in trying to get out of the concept of silos with my teaching, my research, and my service. So I try to align those as much as possible. And being in teacher education and really focused on the use and impact of that immersive tech, there's a nice thing is because in those classes that I teach, there are ways that we can leverage this technology. So having students exposed to this technology, having them use it to teach their peers through those micro teachings, and then ultimately getting them out of just consuming content to actually creating content. So another example of things that I have students do in that pedagogy course is that while they're out visiting, I actually have them take a 360 camera and they will create a virtual tour of that secondary agricultural science program that they're visiting. So that's a way that I get students introduced to this immersive technology. But again, shift them from the mindset of being a consumer of content to now they are a creator of immersive content. And ideally, those skills they can then take when they become a teacher and teach their students how to do those same things.
Wow, that is really neat. So you're kind of helping to build that chain where they're taking this use of technology, not being afraid of it anymore, but also putting it into their classrooms if they're in a high school setting where they're teaching their own students.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. I kind of want to jump back. So you mentioned the Global Guides program. Can you describe a little bit more about how Mississippi State and you are involved in the Global Guides with the World Food Program?
Yeah, so I'm actually an affiliate faculty of the Global Teach Ag Network, and that network was started at Penn State University. So the affiliate faculty, the core group is Dr. Daniel Foster, Dr. Melanie Foster, both at Penn State, and then Tobin Redwine, Dr. Redwine, who's with Vivaic now. And we're kind of the core who, at the behest of the World Food Prize, specifically those folks involved with the Youth Institute, they were looking for a way to engage the teachers that were attending the World Food Prize in Des Moines with their students. Because traditionally the teachers, they brought their students and then they just kind of sat around and twiddled their thumbs for the 3 or 4 days that they were in Des Moines. So the Global Teach Ag Network, the three plus myself that I just mentioned, we got together and we developed an intensive 9-month professional development program for teachers that has them explore how they can integrate kind of these grand challenges, especially as they center around food security, how they can integrate that into their curriculum, no matter what area they teach in, whether that be English, science, agriculture, math. So trying to get them comfortable in having those conversations with their students about food security, identifying those problems, again, framing it through the lens of global learning, but then addressing that at the local level so that students can start to make connections. Here's what's going on in the world. Oh, wait, here's, some similar things that are going on in our community. What can we do to empower students through this training program for teachers to get them active and excited to address some of these food security issues that are going on all over the world?
Wow. Dr. McCubbins, it sounds like you are doing so much here at Mississippi State, and I'm excited to see what comes out of your research and out of your teaching. And I want to thank you so much for being a guest with us here on Influence today.
I certainly appreciate the opportunity. It's great to be a Bulldog.
It is. Hail State. Wonderful. Well, thank you for watching this episode of Influence. We'll be back again with another episode and another guest.